by repeating the mistakes of a previous generation. If we spend vast amounts of taxpayers' money on the technology that we both agree should not be part of the long-term future of our energy policy, Murdo wants to see a situation by 2050 where we don't need nuclear power stations. That's not going to happen unless we put the kind of investment in which has been previously committed to nuclear power and which has resulted in a technology which retains the same fundamental problems that nuclear power has. We need to be committing that investment to the new systems which will be sustainable, will be renewable, and will be decentralised. You're quite right about the amount of waste that's in our existing big infrastructure energy projects. Politicians, you see, I think it's a failing of democracy actually. Politicians love big, sexy infrastructure projects. They like to be able to stand in front of something and say, look what I built. And so they signed off a policy decision and so that's my legacy, look at it. Whether it's a road, whether it's a power station, whatever it is. And it's a kind of virility symbol for politicians that we should really try and grow up and forget about. The smaller scale solutions, the decentralised solutions, don't give a politician the chance to stand in front of a big structure and have a photograph taken and say, look what I did. But they're the right solutions for the long term, and we're not going to get them in place without the investment. I'm bound to say also, I'm not sure what the equivalent of NIMBY acronym is for Not on My Planet, but I'm bound to say that we're not going to get the renewable capacity in place either if politicians continue to put in objections to renewable developments in their own backyard.
Which I'm extremely proud of.
I wonder if Murdo might want to suggest a beautiful area of rural Perth where a nuclear power station would be.
I'll tell you exactly where I want to see a nuclear power station. I want to see a new one or a replacement one at Huntston, another one at Torness for the local people. And I believe we'll be very happy to see them develop. And if that is a suitable site, I'm sure Chapel Cross will be delighted to have them there.
Where would you have wind farms?
Well, I'm not sure.
Those land I
Can I just go that point quickly? I'm a renewable energy consultant for Sphere Energy, and I'm just back doing my conversion to engineering. And just say offshore wind is great. It sounds like from an onshore perspective, you don't want to see wind farms. It's double the cost. It's really expensive, and you get really low availability. Turbines tend to break in the windiest conditions. You can't go and fix them because of the sea conditions and those sort of things. And as great as they are, all the projects that I've worked on a lot is the costs. If you're talking about costs, again, the markets, you're on about spending more public money because you're going to have to subsidise them more, which is going to cost a lot, and onshore is a much more cheaper option. But I just wanted to come back to some of the points which you were talking about, because you were really talking about decentralised energy as being the next big choice, and you're saying that the nuclear energy is being subsidised, but let's talk practically here. It's been subsidised in the past, where we are now. What's the point in subsidising another industry that's going to cost that much more to do it? I work in wind, and I take the perspective that we need to take a medium view. I agree with the gentleman on the left here. We need to take a short-term perspective. I just wanted to come back to some of your points about nuclear breaking down. We've got the oldest nuclear power plants in Europe because we haven't been prepared to build them sooner. We're talking about prototype reactors. We're not talking about standardised design. I'm an engineering student, and there's massive problems there. If you standardise the design, we're not going to have these problems. And when you talk about waste, the chief executive at E.ON and the other guy for EDF was on Channel 4 News today, and it's not the main cost. The capital costs far outstrip the looking after the waste afterwards. They were talking about double or tripling the investment and looking after the waste, and it really wouldn't affect the financial models on that much. The capital cost, because of the redundancy factors you have to have in nuclear power stations, are way above the waste issue. From an engineering perspective, in the ground there's geological conditions under the ground which have been there for thousands, for millions of years, and I just don't view it from an engineering point of view as being a big problem. So my question, I just think some of the things you brought forward there, I'm still leading the times.
Can I said in my speech that I accepted that the design of these power stations has improved and has addressed some of the concerns that were around in the previous generation of plant that was being developed. I don't believe that that fundamentally changes the basic problems with the technology, with nuclear power. One of the reasons why the nuclear industry is particularly concerned about the costs of waste disposal management is that you and I can be paying for it, not them. We're talking about something like £100 billion that's got to be committed by the UK government to manage the nuclear waste that we've got at the moment.
That's over a long length of time, like nuclear power station itself costs, but like initial upfront costs, fire strips that
I would far rather be committing that kind of money. We've never spent anything like that kind of money on developing renewables. And why not? Because renewables, as I hope you agree with this, is about more than just another industry. It's about more than just an industry to help businesses that generate electricity make money and stay in business. It's about providing something which is for the social good of everybody. And nuclear, I'm afraid, can't make that claim.
Okay. Because like, you're talking about bailing out, for instance, or the wind industry, the subsidy, the savings and stuff, yeah.
Well, I mean, very briefly, I don't really want to get involved in the debate about wind versus nuclear, because I'm quite anxious to make the point that the two are not compatible, because nuclear is all about finding base load, and I think you probably said the one thing the wind can provide is the base load, and I don't think getting involved in either discussion.
Maybe we could come on to that.
It's addressed to both speakers. I was just wondering, what is your view on the government rationing CO2 emissions and the level of producers and consumers?
So at the level of
Producers and consumers.
right. Do you want? Shall I?
You go first.
I mean, one of the things that my committee, I think we mentioned at the beginning, I chair the Scottish Parliament's Transport, Infrastructure and Climate Change Committee. We're going to be dealing with the climate change bill next year, and we're going to be dealing in the coming months with the issues that go into that bill. As part of preparing for that, I've had a conversation with folk at the UK level and at European Parliament level. I think there are some debates going on at the moment which are at early stages. I don't think anybody across any part of the political spectrum really knows what the answers are to the balance between individual responsibilities, legislative targets at the nation-state level. I talked about the 80% cut we're about to put into legislation, I hope in Scotland, 60%, maybe 80% at the UK level. The balance between those individual actions, business actions, government actions to legislate the targets, and things like trading schemes, emission trading schemes. I think that all of us across the political spectrum need to be open to having that debate and open to be persuaded, sometimes by people coming from a perspective that we don't initially share about that. If you're talking about rationing, I think it's one of the things that we need much more work on to develop the economic models for, are how a rationing system would work. We can either have rationing work through almost like a supplementary currency. You've got your pounds or your euros or your dollars, and you've also got a carbon ration which you have to spend when you spend your money, and that everybody gets that based on an individual nation's ability to emit under a contraction conversion scheme, sharing out that capacity around the world, and you can use that as a supplementary currency. Or you can try and find a way to build the carbon cost into the currency that we spend already. That would both have a great deal of political unpopularity attached to them. You think road pricing is not popular, you ain't seen anything yet. And this is something that politicians somehow have to find a way to deal with, putting these controversial and unpopular policies forward. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think anybody really knows what the best answer is to those questions, but I would want to argue that everybody across all parts of the political spectrum need to be willing to contemplate some very unpopular measures. The word rationing has got all sorts of negative connotations and baggage associated with it, but ultimately, if we want to live within the ecological means that we have available to us, and we haven't been doing that for a few hundred years now, if we want to start living within our means ecologically, living within the envelope that the planet gives us, that means living with less. It means finding ways to create a culture, a society that supports the concept that people can be happy with less rather than happy